just as the national media was telling us that Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, they're all doing fine because crime is dropping. Well, we come up with this news story. Chaos divers, they locate more than 90 submerged cars in Chicago river system. Could any of that be crime related? What's going on here? Let's get into it. Here we go. So I started to think about river systems, big river systems. And then I started to think about cities where you could drive a car into river systems. Then I started to think about actually driving a car into a river or dumping it or launching it. 90 cars, almost 100 cars does seem like a significant amount. That's what went through my mind. Even though we're talking about it's a big city and it's spread out. You got a big population, big area, lots of cars going in the river. Let's watch a video here.
To a mystery beneath the surface of this part of the Chicago River.
More than 90. That's right. 90 cars were found, some newer, some old and rusted out. Our Marissa Sulik rode along with the dive crew searching for them.
On this boat is the Chaos Divers team. They travel the country looking for cars involved in cold cases. And this week, they are traveling the Chicago River from Diversey on the North Branch to Cicero via the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal.
The amount of detail that you can get off of the sonar.
Lindsay Busick is the manager.
We have 10 missing persons cases in Chicago.
But as they were trying to solve cold cases, they came across dozens of other cars.
Once we kind of reached that 50, 60 number point, then it was kind of like, okay, this was even a little more than we had expected to find.
Busick says
And these guys, we're going to look at their website. But these guys, this is what they do. They've got a big YouTube channel. They get thousands and thousands of views on these kind of things. They're used to going out into cities and, tooling around and, let's grab that car. They find a car and they bring it up to see if there's any clues to some of these cold cases that are out there. So when you have an expert go, after we got out over 60, it was a lot. You're like, okay. All right. Yeah. So you got a lot of cars being dumped in a river for some reason. New? Why would you dump a new car into a river? Yeah. You park that bad boy out, right? No. Drive it off the cliff into a river.
90 cars in the depths of the Chicago River over the last few days. To find the cars, they have sonars set up here in the command center, so they're able to find the cars before they dive in.
There's so much that we can tell you from this.
If they locate a car,
There's a vehicle right here. That's actually a muscle car.
they could retrieve it themselves.
Wow.
But Wednesday afternoon, they called Chicago police to take out this Nissan sedan Busick says was damaging boats. This was a stolen car in 2023. However, there are times they do solve decades-old cases.
Thankfully, we have had the opportunity to bring 20 people home over the last 4 years.
2 of those were here in the Chicago area. They found this car in the Fox River in Elgin this spring. Inside were skeletal remains of Karen Sheppers, who went missing in 1983.
So this is actually a full-size Audi SUV in the water.
As for what's next for the over 90 cars in the water, when we reached out to Chicago police, they directed us to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and we are still waiting to hear back from them.
You can see the tires right in here.
And the Chaos Divers,
It is the most heartbreaking job that you never want to give up.
they say they will be in Chicago a couple more days before they go to their next stop. Marissa Sulik, CBS News, Chicago.
Here we are. It's Chaos Divers. So they run around, insane scuba dive, 3-foot carp. Please let me pet it. Solved missing person case. Calvin Bub Jones, 45,000 views, 153,000 views 7 months ago, breaking a cold case. So these guys are well known for what they do, and they're running around and, things are going so well in Chicago. They find almost 100 cars that have been dumped into the river. I don't know if you've ever seen when a boat goes down, but when a boat goes down in a marina, They just quadrant it off, put these things in that contain the diesel or the gasoline from getting into the water system, contain the oil from coming out of the engine block, all the contaminants that can come into water. These are vehicles that have just been in the water for who knows how long. Who knows how long? So we have 10 missing person cases in Chicago, but our focus is Edward and Stephania Andrews. So they focus on the cold cases, but what I'm thinking about is that's just a lot of vehicles just being driven into rivers. I mean, you look at a wrecking yard, 100 cars is a fair amount. It's a fair amount from the standpoint of how many of these aren't people necessarily, I would take it to the wrecking yard, or I would take it to, I would part it out, or I'd just sell it for pieces or whatever. They are making the conscious decision to dump this vehicle in the water system, riparian water system, right? Not littoral, which is lakes, still body of water. Riparian, which is river rights. Those are real estate terms. So you got riparian action going on. We're just going to dump it into the river. See what happens. Hopefully nothing. How many shenanigans do these cars represent? Well, the one that they're looking at, it was May 15th, 1970, more than 55 years ago. Man, that makes me officially really old because I'm born beyond that. I'm born in 68. When Edward and Stephania Andrews, both 62, left a cocktail party at Sheraton Hotel on Michigan Avenue. They got in their car and were never seen again. I mean, weird story, right? But stuff happens. Plus, this is Chicago. You got just weird stuff going on all the time. You've got big city crime is how folks like to internally justify it. Oh yeah, I mean, our numbers aren't that bad. What are the current, let's see. Hey, Jackass, let's see what the current numbers are for September to date. I'm recording this for you on the 5th of September. Shot and killed 2, shot and wounded 23. So, a fair effort going from the beginning of September forward. Not terrible. Week in progress, though. That includes Labor Day weekend. Shot and killed 6, shot and wounded 40. Strong work, Chicago. And I do not mean to make light of this because these are not just statistics. These are people's children. They are people's parents sometimes. They are individuals that have had their lives ended or had their lives upended by having 46 people shot since last whatever. You got a ton of violence going on. You got people dumping cars. You got people shooting each other. But what does the national media want us to believe? They want us to believe residents of Chicago's most violent block don't want Trump to send the National Guard. So you've got all these news stories that I'm covering left and right that just don't jive with the reality. Oh, I don't want Trump to send in the National Guard. And then you've got Flip Chicago Red. You got leadership from them who are basically folks that are flipping Chicago Red saying, bring them in, bring in the National Guard. We can use the help. Somebody also said recently, and I forget who it was, maybe it was Bill Maher. It was somebody along those lines, a former Democrat who doesn't vote Trump, but he basically just rips on Democratic policy because it's terrible. It just doesn't work. And I can't remember exactly who it was, but they were saying, if you are getting in between ICE or the National Guard to stop criminals in any way, shape, or form from being apprehended, then that is a terrible, terrible, terrible look. And you've got that going on in Chicago big time. Oh, we're a sanctuary city, and we're not going to work with ICE, and we don't believe the National Guard needs to be sent here. Meanwhile, you got almost 100 vehicles found in the river system in Chicago. Oh, yeah. Yep. And people wanted to save on taking their car to the wrecking yard or whatever. It's like, no, you got some weird stuff going on. O Block, made infamous by rappers like Chief Keef, I think my kids like Chief Keef. Okay. Yeah. Chief Keef. All right. Has seen, and Keef being the stuff at the bottom of a grinder for marijuana, has seen more shootings than any other block since 2010. But with crime falling, residents say that they feel safer and scoff at the idea a military intervention would improve safety. Now, we all know it's not a long-term solution, but you send in the National Guard, things are gonna quell. They're gonna drop down. They just are. They're instantly gonna, oh yeah, National Guard here. Because they're gonna wait till they go away for a lot of this stuff. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, okay, all right. Because a presence, no matter what, law enforcement presence will have that impact. It's just not a long-term solution. It just doesn't work long-term because the guards got to go away. But Trump gets amazing optics for doing this, and he gets amazing optics for having numbnuts like Let's Go Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, oppose sending in the National Guard, oppose ICE coming in and removing criminal illegals from their community. Who doesn't want criminal illegals tossed out of the country? A bunch of Democrats. A bunch of Democrats who love criminals, just love them to death. Just, big bear hug, right? Big bear hug. Meanwhile, Mayor Johnson stands firm on National Guard threat after 54 shot over Labor Day weekend. Two federal law enforcement officials told NBC News ICE, Border Patrol, and other federal agencies plan to scale up arrests of undocumented immigrants in Chicago beginning this week. Who doesn't want that? Who is whining? Oh, they're tossing too many criminal illegals out of the country. Who is whining about that? Democrats. Why? Because it impacts their populations. It impacts their ability to generate votes. It impacts districting. And they just brought in 20 million people into the country. And now, a small fraction of that is going back. It's going back. So they are upset that the criminal illegals are being tossed. Yeah. Does that make sense? Some wild stuff, right? What the data, here's BBC News. I mean, just straight up communism, right? What the data tells us about crime in Chicago as Trump threatens to send in troops. There's all these analyses going on about what we're seeing and what should be happening and what will work and what doesn't work. And the rest of the country is looking in going, this is exactly what I voted for. Good. This is great. And then you've got these literally the numbnuts, like Let's Go Brandon Johnson, my mayor here, who has to kowtow to the far left because that's going to get him way more votes than saying anything that appears reasonable. I mean, conservative. Those terms are interchangeable now, right? Because the far left, the left, has gone so far in a different direction that nothing that they come up with is reasonable. Prime example, Mayor Bruce Harrell recently said that churchgoers holding a Christian worship service, think singing hymns, reading prayers, talking about scripture, maybe reading scripture, that is by its very essence far-right extremist behavior. And that's literally what he called Seattle folks, or folks who are in Seattle, worshiping a higher power, extreme far-right extremists, just straight-up extremists. Because he's not going to get any juice for, he's not going to get any juice saying, we need to cover all freedom of speech. He's kind of worked his way around that on the tail end, but the damage is already done. He basically said, those Bible bashers, they're far-right extremists. Because he gets no negative impact to his constituency voting for him. He gets credit from the far left and from the left, which is all of Seattle. As the rest of the country went a little bit redder, Seattle and Washington State, they just go blue, blue, blue. More and more blue. What the data tells us about crime, all the data is telling us, well, crime is down, major crime is down, major crime is down, and you're left with, all right, certainly it doesn't really feel that way, doesn't really seem that way. And then when I read the story about, well, we're trying to solve some cold cases, chaos divers locate more than 90, and you're left with, which one is it? Is crime getting better, or what's the dealio here, right? Here's a prime example of what I'm talking about. Watch this video.
Down ICE! Shut down ICE! Protesters
Seattle.
in the region have opposed ICE operations ever since President Donald Trump began his immigration crackdown.
No more deportation on healthcare and education.
But detentions and deportations have only increased.
Seems like every week ICE comes out with a new tactic of how to disappear
Good.
and snatch our individuals.
Good.
ICE agents will focus on Chicago and other sanctuary cities that Trump once targeted starting after Labor Day.
You can see a ramp up of operations in Chicago, absolutely. You're going to see a ramp up of operations in New York. You're going to see a ramp up of operations continue in LA. And, Portland, Seattle.
Seattle city leaders have
Good.
so far refused to assist federal agents in immigration enforcement, and the mayor says that will continue. So ICE is going to put up the pressure on sanctuary cities. How is Seattle going to respond?
Well, we are responding. Number one,
The mayor has been meeting with state leaders and says the law is on their side.
under the 10th Amendment, it is very clear those are the safeguards in place to prevent federal overreach.
Even if Seattle doesn't help federal agents, advocacy groups say immigrants are in for even more challenges.
They're scared to take their kids to school, drive to the grocery store, or even go to work.
Federal officials say ICE will be removing criminals, and sanctuary cities are getting in the way.
We're going to take the assets we have and move them to problem areas like sanctuary cities where we know for a fact they're releasing public safety threat, illegal aliens to the streets every day.
We don't get bullied here, and we think this is an intimidation tactic.
Our mayor is so politically feckless at this point in time. Yeah, all three of the folks that are moderate that have been kind of helping Seattle get a little bit better since the pandemic are going to lose their elections. They're going to lose their elections because people are so flipped out about Trump and the good that he's doing, the actual positive, hey, let's go after criminals, let's secure the border, all of those things, that in a big blue city like Seattle or Chicago, their leadership is so terrible that the only way you can get reelected, their constituency is so blue that the only way you can get reelected is to go down these far left. Oh, yeah, we're not helping ICE. I mean, in what world do you not help ICE? In what world? You're supporting criminals. You're trying to tell me that all of these folks are just normal, everyday folks that are being targeted by ICE? Being targeted for a reason, aren't they? They're being targeted for a reason. And it ain't because they're singing Kumbaya at church. So, I say bring it on. I say bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it on. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining. Bye for now.